This is Randy. Thank you for watching my podcast. Really appreciate it. Hope all is going well with you. God is a good God. If you have an opportunity, would you hit the bottom right-hand screen, hit that red button, subscribe to the channel. If you would give me a thumbs up, make a comment, that'll help me get it pushed out to other people. Eventually, I'll get there. It's taken me a while, but I'll get there with your help. Thank you so much for everyone that has subscribed and the ones that are. Let's get right into this. We're going to talk about unconditional love. Unconditional love is something that's really hard to find, and we're going to talk about it today. Galatians chapter 5, verse 22. But the fruits of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and faithfulness. These are the attributes of unconditional love. The fruit of the Spirit is love people, joy in your life, peace, which passes all understanding, patience. You can wait on people and try to work with them. You have to be patient with them. Kindness, goodness, and faithfulness. These are the attributes you need to have unconditional love. We should love everyone, but love does not mean that we approve of everything that someone does or how they act. All right, I can love someone, but if they do something stupid, say they go out and they get in a car accident and they're drunk, all right, I still love that person. Or if they're a family member, whoever it may be, I don't know. I'm not saying I got family members that have done that. They haven't, that I know about. But I'm just saying, you would still love them, but you don't approve what they did. You can kill somebody. The last time I looked, and I may be off a little bit, but the last time I looked, it was either 16 or 18,000 people a year get killed by drunk drivers. All right? Look up how many people get killed by guns. I'm talking about for murders and robberies. I'm not talking about people that take their own life. All right? That's terrible. That's a different issue for a different day. But I'm talking about that. It's nowhere even in the ballpark of drunk deaths. People killed by drunks. But it happens every year. 16 to 18,000 people die a year. To give you an idea, the Vietnam War went on 10 years. We lost 58,000 troops over there that never came back alive. 58,000, that's a lot. It's about 5,800 a year, average. We average 3 times that amount in people that die every year from drunk drivers. But yet, it's not a big issue with politicians because many of them have been arrested for drunk driving and they're drinkers. And so they don't really push that hard, but we have that many Americans die every year. And while I'm at it, I'll just throw this in. Last year, we had 108,000 people die in the United States from fentanyl. 108,000 in 1 year died from fentanyl. Do you think if we had 108,000 people a year get killed by a bad medicine or a certain kind of gun or whatever, 108,000 a year, they'd be all over that screaming, hooping, hollering. But we have 108,000 people, and most of them are young people. The vast majority, like 80% of them, are under 25. And about 60 or 65% are under 18 years old, 18 and under, died from fentanyl. All right? Even some police officers who stopped somebody for had drugs in their car, and when they picked them up, the dust come out of there and it killed policemen. So you have to realize that there's a lot of evil things going on, but if you love people, you want to do for them, take care of them, you love them unconditionally, even though they have problems. That doesn't mean you approve of all the wrong they're doing. It means you love them. When a mom goes down to the jail and her son's killed 5 people, and she says, I love my boy, I don't doubt it. And she says, I love him with all my heart, and I feel so bad about what happened. And she does. Her heart's broke. She don't quit loving her son just because he did that. What he did was wrong, and she knows it's wrong. He knows it's wrong, but she still loves him. God's love is unconditional. And when he loves you, he loves you no matter what. And we used to sing a chorus, he loves you when you're right, he loves you when you're wrong. He loves you when you're weak, he loves you when you're strong. God loves you no matter where you're at in life, but that does not mean that he approves of everything that you do. Too many people think unconditional love means unconditional tolerance. It does not mean that. All right, it does not mean that. I've had to tell people over the years that were living in my home or staying here for a short time, you can't do that and be in my house. All right, you just can't do it. If you can't do that without doing that, you got to go. You can't stay. Why? Because I had children, and I was a minister, and I pastored a church, and I had children at home, 3 kids of my own, and I wasn't going to let people bring alcohol into my house, drugs into my home, or come in fighting and arguing in my home. That don't work. That dog will not hunt. Anybody comes to my house starting trouble, I open the door and show them the door. You're not gonna stay in my house, fight and argue. We don't do that. All right, that's one place of comfort that I have, and that my family has, and my kids are grown and married, and their kids, some of them are married. They come back home here to have a dinner with me and to have a barbecue and all that because they say, Pawpaw, you and Mama, your place is so peaceful, and you've got this huge field in the back and all the woods and the creek, and it's so nice inside the house and outside the house. We love coming here. Don't ever get rid of this place, Pawpaw. Don't let it go. We love it here. Why? Because they got all the good memories from when they were a child. I don't allow fighting and arguing in my home. I just don't do it because I love everybody. Unconditional love. You love people. Too many people think, as I said, unconditional love means unconditional tolerance, and that's not what it is. You can love someone to the moon and back, all right? My wife says she loves us from as far as the east it's from the west, and that's a whole bunch. But we still have boundaries. Even though you love people, you have boundaries. I've had to tell relatives, you can't do that here. You got to stop it right now. If you don't, you got to go. And I've had some get offended, some didn't. Be it as it may, unconditional love. Just because you love someone doesn't mean that you have to approve or tolerate and put up with things they do that's wrong. All right? That doesn't mean that. Boundaries don't diminish the amount of love that you have in your heart for someone. It just means there's boundaries. You can't cross these boundaries. You can't do this around my children. You can't do this around me. I'm not going to put up with it. When I was a manager in the car business, I had one place I worked at, I was the GSM, General Sales Manager. I was in charge of new cars, used cars, fleet manager, leasing manager, 2 finance guys, the cleanup shop, the car rental. I had 2 people there, 50 rental units. All these people worked for me. I was in charge of them. All right? And I had to tell them, what was expected out of them and make sure they got their job done. That was my part of my job. But I love the people that work for me. Most of them I hired and trained myself. But if they did something boneheaded and wrong, it didn't change how I loved them and how I appreciated their work. It meant they did something wrong and I wasn't going to tolerate it. And when I had customers that come in and they said, we got one back here in the service department, and he's really hotter than a pancake, and he's coming up your way. I'd say, okay, just tell me real brief what's going on. And they tell me, he come up and start cussing, ranting, raving, putting his finger up my face and all that. And I stood up and I go, he goes, what's that? I said, time out. You need to be still. All right, now quit cussing and quit hollering. If you want me to help you, you need to calm down. If he kept it up, I just walked right out of the office, went out the door, went out on the lot, got on my golf cart and started driving around checking cars. And he'd run me down. He said, what are you doing? I said, until you can sit down and keep your mouth shut and quit cussing, I got nothing to talk to you about. Get in your car after you pay the bill and get out of here. And he said, well, I want to talk to you about the bill. I said, fine. You going to keep screaming and cussing? No. Hop in the cart. I'll drive you back up there. We drive back up there. Sometimes I talk to them in the golf cart. We just sit there underneath the pad and I talk to them, or I take them in the office and sit them down. And I say, have a seat, and then I'll ask you what's going on and we'll go from there. Now he's not in control no more. I am. Because I got him to be still. I got him to sit down when I told him to sit down. Now I'm in charge. It's my place of business. I'm in charge. I can help him if he needs help, but I'm not going to do it if he's going to treat my employees and me like a piece of garbage. And then when he'd start talking, if he'd say cuss word, I said, look, if you keep cussing, I'm not listening to you. You want my help, you got to stop it. Okay, all right. And then he'd tell me. The one guy that come to mind, I'll just tell you real quick, the service department called him on his job and they told him it would cost between $350 and $400 to fix his car. He gave him the authorization. The guy that called him put his name down and signed it. He put the time he talked to him. He put down what he told him, put a circle around it, and then had the service manager sign his name to it, and they got the car fixed. He come in, he said they only told him he would have to pay between $250 and $300. And so he was back there pounding on the counter, screaming and cussing, thinking maybe, I guess, he could get $100 off. But when he come up to my office, he finally admitted that's what they told him. I said, shame on you to cause that kind of problem back there in the service department. He goes, well, I'll go back and pay the bill. I said, because I told him, he said, I'll just take my car and see you in your car. I said, no, it don't work that way. You're not going to get your car. Your car's not going to leave our garage till you pay the bill. And now that you threaten me like I'm not taking a check. Back in those days, a lot of people wrote checks. I said, we're not going to do it. So you got to pay it and pay it in full, then you can have your car. That's the way it works. And he goes, well, all right. And he stuck his hand out. I shook his hand. I walked back with him and said, he said that he remembered you calling him. He remembered that is the amount. The ticket's $361. It was between $350 and $400. That's what it came out to. He'll pay you right now, and he's going to pay you in the way of cash. All right, I'm having one of the car rental people drive him up to the bank so he can get the money. And so he went and got the money and came back and paid him, and then we let him go. So what are you saying? Just because you love people or you care about people doesn't mean that you approve of the wrong things that they do. It doesn't mean that you won't call their hand on it when they're doing things that are wrong. All right? And so when I corrected an employee, it wasn't because I wanted to get rid of them. It wasn't because I didn't like them. But I sometimes I looked at myself and said, where did I fail them? Because I trained them. They worked for me. They've been here for 3 years. What's going on here? And I'd evaluate myself first before I talked to them. Why? Because I cared about them. I wanted them to succeed. They had families to take care of. And I wanted everybody to succeed and be a real good employee. And I felt like it was part of my job to make them that way and to hold them accountable for what they did, but let them know I'll stand right beside you if you have a problem. I'll help you solve your problems if you come to me and talk to me. And so that's the way I did. And God loves you. So just because you love people doesn't mean that it's unconditional tolerance. I'm going to tolerate bad talk. I'm going to tolerate guys cussing employees out. I'm going to tolerate a guy making obscene gestures to my receptionist out on the floor. I'm not going to do that. I love people. I want to get along with people, but that doesn't mean I have unconditional tolerance for a bunch of nonsense and things that aren't right. All right, so remember that. Just because you're Christian doesn't mean you put a thing on your head that says doormat. You're not a doormat. You can stand up for the Lord and stand up for you. There has to be boundaries. Boundaries don't diminish the amount of love that you have in your heart for people. It just means you have boundaries. I'm only going to go so far. You know, I learned this from my father when I was a kid. Don't loan more money than you can afford to lose. If you can't afford to lose it, don't loan it. All right? And you really shouldn't tell people if you got any money, like I got this much in savings, because as soon as they find it out, everybody's going to be coming to you trying to borrow money. And he was right. Never loan more than you can afford to lose, because there's a lot of people that won't pay you back. Just threw that in for good, all right? That's a little extra for nothing. You have to have love for people, but it doesn't diminish the amount of love you have in your heart because you have boundaries and that you have intentional love. You love people, but not unconditional tolerance for everything they do. It's wrong. I'm not going to tolerate it. I'm not going to put up with it. You don't have to. You need to excuse me. I'm still struggling a little bit from my strokes. I had 2 strokes 3 weeks ago, and I'm still struggling a little bit trying to say things, so bear with me, I'm sorry. You need to imitate Christ, and that means you love God, and you love your neighbors, and you want to do what Christ wants you to do. You want to live right for the Lord. You want to do things that are right for your friends and your relatives, and you want to be fair with people. Which of these fruits do you want to produce in your life? Do you want the fruit of the Spirit? Do you want love? Do you want joy? Do you want peace? Do you want patience, kindness, goodness, and faithfulness? If you want any of these attributes in your life, then you have to produce them by loving God, loving people, and asking God, put these attributes in my life so I can love people unconditionally. Well, let me give you this real quick here. But the fruits of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness. That's the things that love is. And the fruits of the Spirit is these, and we should have them in our heart and care about it. But we need to love people unconditionally. But, tagging this before we close, that does not mean unconditional tolerance of their sin. I'm not going to allow people to bring sin into my home. I'm not going to allow people to bring sin into our lives. Somewhere along the line, you have to say, no, I love you, but I don't tolerate this. That doesn't mean, it means you got boundaries and you love them unconditionally, but you do not love sin and you'll not give unconditional tolerance to it, if that makes sense. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope God will bless you today. And if you get a chance, please subscribe to my channel. There's a round picture of me on the end here. Click on that and subscribe. Help me out. Give me a thumbs up and make a comment. God loves you and I love you. Thank you for your time. This time till next time, Old Rev May signing off. You have a wonderful day and God loves you.